They dragged Officer Byron Renee Carter into the middle of the riot like she was some kind of prize. I can still hear one of them sneering, "You're ours now, officer," and the whole cell block roaring as if the walls themselves were laughing. To them, she was just a black woman in uniform, a bargaining chip, a body they could break to send a message. What they didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Renee had been fighting for her life long before she put on that badge. She'd grown up on the west side of Houston in foster homes where locks meant nothing, and mercy was a word nobody bothered to define. By 15, she was already ducking fists and learning to throw her own. By 19, she was in underground fight rings where a slow punch could mean you didn't walk out at all. The badge came later, almost like a dare to herself, prove you can survive inside the system that tried to eat you alive. And now on this gray afternoon in Stone Creek Correctional, it looked like all those years were about to get tested. From the very start that day, something felt off. The cafeteria buzzed with a strange kind of quiet whispers, instead of shouts, glances, instead of stares. Renee kept scanning the rows of men in orange, her dark eyes catching subtle nods between tables. Morning Carter Officer Davis murmured as he passed, worry etched into his face. "Feels like they're waiting for something," she replied. Her boots clanged on the metal stairs as she climbed to the upper tier, each echo ringing like a countdown. Then it exploded. Trays flew, tables flipped, a dozen shouts at once. "This food tastes like trash," someone yelled, then another stood, then another. In seconds, the mess hall became a battlefield. Plastic forks turned to daggers, guards swarmed and swallowed. Renee reached for her radio, but a fist caught her shoulder. She spun, elbowed the attacker in the jaw, ducked a swing from another. For a minute, she carved a path toward the door, but the tide kept coming, hands grabbing boots, stomping bodies pressing. The alarm howled overhead, that shrill code red wail everyone dreads. She fought like a cornered animal, but numbers win. They tore the radio from her belt, slammed her against a wall, dragged her through the corridors past cheering inmates. The whole block vibrated with a cruel celebration, chains rattling, voices hoarse with excitement. Someone leaned in close, grinning through cracked teeth. "Not so tough now, are you?" she spat back. His slap rang in her ears. In the middle of Block C, they threw her to the concrete like a trophy. Fires flickered in trash cans, smoke hung low. The metallic taste of fear everywhere. A circle formed around her faces, gleaming with sweat and hate. Rico Alvarez, a Latino shot caller with tattoos crawling up his neck, raised his hands. "Nobody touches her yet," he snapped. Tommy Briggs, at twice her size with a wrist full of prison ink, stepped forward anyway. "Why not guards been treating us like dogs for years? Maybe it's time to return the favor." Renee stayed crouched back against the wall, eyes scanning. Every movement burned into her brain. Who held knives? Who hung back? Who smelled blood? She could almost feel the old part of herself stirring, the part that never begged, never froze. When Briggs lunged, she moved without thinking, caught his arm, twisted, used his own bulk as a shield. "Ugh!" His scream tore through the block as his wrist snapped like a branch. She rose, slow, eyes dark as gunmetal. "Anybody else want to try?" For a heartbeat, the riot stilled. Inmates glanced at each other, the thrill of cruelty cooling into wariness. Rico's face darkened, realizing he could lose control. "Tie her up," he barked. "No more rough stuff." Even tied, Renee stayed watching, memorizing everything. That's how she caught the whisper, two men in the shadows talking about a maintenance tunnel under Block C, a way out to the river drain. Not a random riot. A cover for a breakout. Leon Harker, ex-mob enforcer, and his pet giant, Crusher Malone, planning to disappear while everyone else burned. That night, as she sat in a cell with wrists rubbed raw, she started working angles. Rico wanted leverage. Marcus Reaper Cole hated Harker from way back. In prison, politics is survival, and survival is power. She reached out to Marcus through the bars, low voice, steady. "You know what he's planning. You know he'll leave you behind again. Help me stop him." His scarred jaw clenched, but he didn't walk away. In the end, grudgingly, he agreed. They gathered two more inmates who weren't tied to any gang-neutral men who wanted no part of Harker's escape. They mapped it out on the floor with chalk, planned a small ambush at the corridor leading to the tunnel. Renee's pulse steadied. This could work. But her gut kept whispering something she didn't want to hear. Marcus was too smooth, his eyes too cold. Still, she needed his muscle and his reputation. Sometimes you gamble. When the time came, they crouched in the shadows waiting. Footsteps approached. Renee felt that instinctive chill just before betrayal. Marcus shifted behind her. Then, white flash of pain, he drove a sharpened scrap of metal into Big Mike's back. "Sorry, officer," he hissed, gripping her arm, as Harker's crew poured out of the dark. "Harker made me a better offer." They bound her tight, dragging her down into the tunnels beneath the prison. Damp air, dripping pipes, old service markings on the walls. They'd been digging for months, smuggling tools, building a path to freedom no one on the surface even knew existed. Renee kept her head low, testing the chains, memorizing turns, right at the fallen fixture, left at the rusted pipe, straight past the water main. Above them, SWAT teams would be gearing up, but heading to the wrong place. Down here, she was alone. They chained her to a water pipe while they widened the last section of tunnel. Marcus crouched beside her, smirking. "All that tough talk, and here you are, just another hostage." She didn't answer. Let them think she was broken. Let them underestimate her one last time. She felt the weak link in the chain, twisted slowly, buying minutes. "Got a draft," one of the diggers called. "We're through." Excitement rippled. Harker pointed at Renee. "She goes first, thread the rope on the other side." Marcus unlocked her chains, leaning in close. "One wrong move and I snap your neck." She nodded, trembling, on purpose, squeezed through the jagged gap. On the other side, dim emergency light flickered. She threaded the rope, tugged 3 times, then pressed herself flat against the wall. Marcus's face appeared in the hole first. She struck like a coiled snake, grabbed his hair, slammed his head into concrete once, twice, a third time, till bone cracked. His body went limp, half in and half out, blocking the gap. "You idiot," someone shouted, firing blindly. Renee dragged Marcus's body through, snatched the shiv from his waistband. The next man tried to squeeze in. She drove the blade up under his ribs. Hot blood sprayed the tunnel, echoing with his scream. One by one they came, and one by one she cut them down. Pipes, shivs, elbows, she used everything, the narrow tunnel turning their numbers into a curse. Bullets sparked off concrete, the smell of gunpowder mixing with damp earth. She became what she used to be, moving with that cold predator rhythm, each kill a step closer to freedom. By the time Harker realized what was happening, half his crew was sprawled in the dark. He and Crusher bolted for the far exit, bursting through a rusted gate into the trees beyond the prison wall. Renee followed, blood on her facepipe in one hand, shiv in the other. "Split up," Harker shouted, vanishing into the forest. Crusher turned, his massive frame blocking her path. "You ain't taking me back inside," he growled, swinging a haymaker the size of a sledgehammer. She ducked low, drove her shoulder into his ribs, slammed the pipe across his thigh. He grabbed her arms, yanked her off her feet, slammed her into the dirt. Stars exploded in her vision. His boot caught her ribs once, twice. She slashed with the shiv, opening his leg, but he kept coming. Hands like vices wrapped around her throat. "Should have stayed in your lane," he hissed, eyes bright with rage. "Should have played nice." Black spots crept at the edges of her sight lungs, burning. Then crack. A bullet whistled past Crusher's ear. Another one tore bark from the tree beside him. Flashlights cut through the dawn, hands where we can see them, Derek Walsh's voice steady and commanding. SWAT piled into the clearing, dogs barking, weapons up. Crusher hesitated a second too long. 2 officers tackled him, slamming him into the ground. Renee rolled onto her side, gasping her bruised throat, screaming with each breath. Harker tried to run, but the forest lit up with movement teams blocking every exit, dogs closing in. Gunfire cracked in the distance, then shouts, "Suspect down." Derek knelt beside her, steadying her as the world tilted. "Got your message from the camera," he murmured. Knew something big was going down. She tried to answer, but only a rasp came out. She pointed weakly toward where Harker had vanished. "Don't worry," Derek said. "He won't get far." Back inside Stone Creek, SWAT stormed Block C like a thunderclap, flashbangs, tear gas, inmates dropping to their knees as the illusion of control shattered. And in the middle of it all, Renee limped forward, battered uniform hanging off her shoulders, eyes still hard as steel. Guards who had assumed she was dead stared like they were seeing a ghost. "Holy hell," one whispered. She made it. They paraded Marcus past her in chains, his scarred face twisted with hate, but no smirk left. "You played both sides and lost," she told him quietly, her voice cutting deeper than any blade. Crusher glared from the medical gurney wrists, chained his earlier bravado gone. Harker, pale and bleeding from a bullet graze, wouldn't even meet her eyes as they hauled him back into the prison he'd tried to flee. Hours later, Renee sat on the front steps of the facility, the sun finally rising, a paper cup of coffee in her hands. Derek sat beside her, watching teams secure the yard. "I've been doing this 15 years, he said. "Never seen anything like it. They're calling you La Loba the Wolf." She gave a small, tired smile, probably getting taller with each telling. But she knew the truth. She'd simply stop pretending. The prison would go back to its routines. Cells locked, head counts, chow lines. But she'd changed something fundamental. Inmates now understood she wasn't just another guard. They'd seen her fight like one of them and still choose duty over escape. And the staff saw her too, beyond the uniform, beyond assumptions, seeing the steel underneath. She didn't ask for medals. She didn't want to be a legend. She wanted the next kid from a foster home, the next rookie officer, the next underestimated woman to know there's another way through the fire. As she sipped her coffee, bruised throat aching, she thought about how quickly things had turned, how easily trust could break, how thin the line between predator and prey really was. So I'll leave you with this. What do you think? Was Renee right to go full force down there to turn the tunnels into a hunting ground? Or did she cross a line no officer should cross, even in the name of justice? Have you ever seen someone underestimated until they turn the whole table upside down? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because stories like this aren't just headlines, they're reflections of what we all live through in one way or another. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Tomorrow's story might just make you question everything you thought you knew about power survival and what it takes to stand up when everyone wants you to fall.